Hi friends, thank you for joining me tonight. I have a special bedtime story planned for you this evening. One that is perfect for this time of year, and it also happens to be one of my favourite movies. Tonight's story is Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. So go ahead and make yourself a nice warm drink. Maybe grab your favourite blanket and snuggle up cozy. Let's begin. It was Halloween night in Halloween Town. Ghouls, goblins, werewolves and witches gathered in the town square to wait for the return of their leader, Jack Skellington, the Pumpkin King. Fresh from his night of fright, Jack Skellington rode into town, his fearsome pumpkin costume ablaze. The admiring crowd of monsters cheered as Jack leapt from his wooden horse and doused the flames in a fountain. "Great Halloween, everybody," said the two-faced mayor. "I believe it was our most horrible yet," added Jack Skellington. "Thanks to you, Jack," replied the mayor. Everyone in Halloween Town thought Jack Skellington was a wonderful Pumpkin King, and they couldn't wait to tell him how much they adored him. "You're such a scream, Jack," one vampire cheered. "You're a witch's fondest dream," cried a witch. From the edge of the crowd, a rag doll named Sally watched Jack, her heart filled with longing. Suddenly, an evil scientist grabbed hold of Sally's arm. "The deadly nightshade you slipped me wore off, Sally," the scientist said. The scientist was Sally's creator, Dr. Finkelstein, who had created Sally in his laboratory. In return, he expected Sally to be his companion forever. "Let go," Sally cried. "You're coming with me," Dr. Finkelstein said, trying to pull Sally away. Thinking quickly, Sally picked the threads that attached her ragdoll arm, causing her arm to detach. She fled to the graveyard, leaving her arm to knock Dr. Finkelstein on the head. There's Sally. In the square, the crowd tried to get closer to their king. Soon, Jack found himself surrounded. "Ooh, Jack, you make wounds ooze and flesh crawl," cooed a swamp monster. But none of the praise and good cheer mattered to Jack. Like Sally, he wanted to escape too. While the mayor made an announcement, Jack took the opportunity to slip away. "Nice work, Bone Daddy," the musician called after him. "Yeah, I guess so. Just like last year," Jack replied. Jack walked forlornly to the graveyard, where he summoned Zero from his tomb. Zero was Jack's ghost dog, who had a glowing orange pumpkin nose. As Jack walked, he boasted to Zero of his fame throughout the world as the King of Fear. But Jack was bored of making people scream all the time. He wanted more than being the Pumpkin King. Jack felt something was missing from his life. He didn't think anyone in Halloween Town could possibly understand. But someone did understand. Sally had heard everything from behind a gravestone. She knew exactly how Jack felt. But Sally was too timid to reveal herself, so she watched as he walked into the forest with Zero. There she is, look. Sally, Dr. Finkelstein called when he heard her return to his castle. You've come back. I had to, Sally said. For this? He said, holding up Sally's arm. He led her to his laboratory, where he reattached her arm. Sally told Dr. Finkelstein that she was feeling restless. It's a phase, my dear. It'll pass, Dr. Finkelstein said. We need to be patient, that's all. But Sally didn't want to be patient. Early the next morning, the mayor arrived at Jack's house to discuss plans for next Halloween. The mayor climbed up the steps and rang the bell, but there was no answer. The mayor pounded on the door, but there was still no answer. Jack, answer me, the mayor cried. But Jack could not answer because he was not home. In fact, Jack hadn't been home all night. At the very edge of Halloween Town, the pumpkin sun blazed above the skeletal trees of the forest. Where are we? Jack yawned, tired after a long night of wandering. Jack found himself in a place unlike any he had been to before. What is this? Jack wondered as he stepped into a clearing. All around him stood trees with strange pictures carved into their trunks. One was carved with a pretty egg, one with a plump turkey, and another a bold red heart. But one carving stood out to Jack more than any other, that of a brightly decorated green tree. As Jack looked closer, he saw that the carvings were in fact doors with shining doorknobs. Curious, Jack took hold of the doorknob on the tree door, turned it, and pulled. The door opened. Jack leaned inside to see where it led. Some really cute drawings of Zero, look. It's really cute. But all he could see was darkness. Jack stepped back, disappointed. But as he did so, a flurry of snowflakes swirled out from the tree and pulled him inside. The door slammed shut behind him, leaving Zero in the forest alone. Down Jack tumbled as spiraling snowflakes eddied around him. What's going on? Where's he off to? Jack landed with a thump. A bright flash blinded him for a moment. As his sight returned, Jack found himself sitting on top of a snow-covered hill, overlooking the most cheerful-looking town he had ever seen. Jack jumped up and slid down the hill towards the town. When he arrived, Jack wondered if he was dreaming. All around him, people were laughing and singing. It was nothing like dark and gloomy Halloween town. Everything was bright and colourful. There were no monsters, no witches, and nobody was scared. Jack wanted to know more about this mysterious place. But where was he? Not looking where he was going, Jack crashed into a signpost. Christmas Town? Jack read. Back in Halloween Town, the search was on for the missing Pumpkin King. "We've got to find Jack," the mayor declared. "Is there anywhere we've forgotten to check?" But there wasn't. "It's time to sound the alarms," cried the mayor. High in Dr. Finkelstein's castle, Sally heard the alarm. Longing for her share of the excitement, she slipped Deadly Nightshade into her master's soup. "Lunch," Sally announced as she entered Dr. Finkelstein's lab. But something about the smell of the soup made the scientist suspicious. "Until you taste it, I won't swallow a spoonful," he said. Sally reached for the spoon, but knocked it to the ground. When she reached down to pick it up, she pulled a spoon filled with holes from her sock. Sally took a big fake spoonful of soup. "See? Scrumptious," she said, placing the bowl in front of him. Sally watched with delight as Dr. Finkelstein gulped it down. Here's Jack. In the town square, the mayor was out of ideas when suddenly there was the sound of barking. It was Zero. Zero flew into Halloween Town, with Jack following close behind, riding a snowmobile. "Where have you been?" demanded the mayor as a crowd gathered around Jack. "Call a town meeting and I'll tell everyone all about it," replied Jack. There was no time to waste. The mayor immediately drove through the town to tell everyone about the meeting. In his laboratory, Dr. Finkelstein slept soundly as Sally snuck out to join the meeting. "Listen, everyone," Jack said as he strode onto the stage. "I want to tell you about Christmas Town." Jack told everyone about what he'd seen and showed them the souvenirs he had brought back. He tried to explain the sights and the sounds and the warmth he felt when he was there. The town loved it. They wanted to try Christmas for themselves. I like this, it's really cool. Christmas tree decorated with loads of pumpkins. And there's a bat on top. They gasped at the bright lights and the presents and wondered what horrible things they could put inside. Jack told them that Christmas was nice and not frightening, but the town didn't understand. Unsure how to explain, Jack told them about the shadowy leader of Christmas Town. Jack had not met this ruler, but his description was vivid and terrifying. He said the people of Christmas Town called their king Sandy Claus. The crowd were delighted, but Jack knew they were still missing something. Later, in front of the fire, Jack searched through his books for a way to better explain Christmas. He wondered if science might help. Jack's making a paper snowflake, but with a skull's head in the middle. He's trying, bless him. The next morning, Dr. Finkelstein locked Sally in a dungeon to make sure she never poisoned him again. As he secured the lock, his doorbell rang. It was Jack. "Doctor, I need to borrow some equipment," Jack said, and explained that he wanted to do some experiments. The evil scientist gave Jack everything he needed, while Sally listened. At home, Jack crushed holly berries under a microscope, sliced open a teddy bear, and boiled an ornament over a Bunsen burner. Jack made all kinds of observations, but he didn't know what they meant. From her dungeon, Sally saw the glowing light from Jack's experiments. She decided to make him some provisions. Unlocking the window of her cell, Sally lowered the basket of food to the ground and leapt after it. She landed with a thud, her body broken on the pavement. But all was not lost. Sally picked up her pieces and sewed herself back together. It's pretty cool. Sally took her basket to the Pumpkin King's window. Jack brought it inside, but when he looked out to thank Sally, she was gone. Sally hid behind a wall and pulled the petals from a dead flower. She wondered if she would ever have the courage to tell Jack how she felt. Suddenly, Sally had a terrifying vision. The flower she held in her hand turned into a Christmas tree and then burst into flames. All that remained was a charred stick. Meanwhile, Jack had not left his house in days. The people of Halloween Town worried about their Pumpkin King. In his makeshift lab, Jack was no closer to discovering the meaning of Christmas. He was getting frustrated. Eventually, Jack decided that it didn't matter whether or not he understood the magic of Christmas, as long as he believed in it. different facial expressions. He's really happy. And then he's really cross. And then he's just... He believed in Christmas so much that he was sure he could improve it. Jack knew what he had to do. He threw open the window and announced, "This year, Christmas will be ours." But there was a lot to be done, and Jack had jobs for everyone. The whole town lined up to receive their tasks. Jack asked the vampires to make dolls and Dr. Finkelstein to make the reindeer. "Oh, how horrible our Christmas will be," cheered the mayor. "No, how jolly," said Jack, correcting him. Jack assigned his most important task to Halloween Town's best trick-or-treaters, Lock, Shock, and Barrel. Jack wanted them to kidnap Santa Claus. Jack made them promise to tell no one about their mission, especially their master, Oogie Boogie. Oogie Boogie was a mean creature, so terrible that all of the ghosts, goblins, witches, and werewolves were frightened of him. His body was a shapeless sack, bursting at the seams with creepy crawlies, and his gaping mouth had a slithering snake for a tongue. Oh. There's Sally again. Meanwhile, Jack had a job for Sally. He wanted her to sew him his very own Santa Claus costume. Sally told Jack all about her terrifying vision. "It's going to be a disaster," she warned. But Jack was too excited to listen. "I have every confidence in you," said Jack. "But it seems wrong to me, very wrong," Sally said as she walked away. Jack continued to hand out tasks to the townspeople when Lock, Shock, and Barrel returned with a mysterious sack. "Jack! Jack! We got him! We got him!" they cried. "Perfect! Open it up quickly," Jack said. But when they opened the sack, there was no Santa Claus. Instead, out hopped a pink bunny carrying a basket of eggs. We got Barrel and Shock and Lock. "Take him back," Jack commanded. Jack apologized to the startled bunny and sent them on their way. Oops. Looks like they got the Easter bunny by mistake. As the big day drew closer, the two worlds, Halloween Town and Christmas Town, worked hard to create their versions of Christmas. But while the toys built in Christmas Town were guaranteed to bring delight, the citizens of Halloween Town made gifts that would cause terror. Halloween Town was making Christmas the only way they knew how. They were making Christmas scary. On Christmas Eve, everything was almost ready. Ghosts and mummies rushed to the town square with their ghoulish gifts to put in Jack's sleigh. But Jack's sleigh was not jolly and red like the one in Christmastown. Jack's sleigh was black and built from a coffin and was to be pulled by reindeer skeletons. Christmastown was almost ready too. Santa was checking his nice and naughty list when his doorbell rang. Now, who could that be? Wondered Santa as he got up from his chair. Trick or treat, cried Lock, Shock and Barrel on Santa's doorstep. The treacherous trick-or-treaters bundled Santa into a sack, threw him in their walking bathtub, and raced back to Halloween Town. Oh dear. Meanwhile, Sally put the finishing touches on Jack's Santa Claus costume. You don't look like yourself, Jack. Not at all, she said. Isn't that wonderful? Cried Jack. Jack, I know you think something's missing, but Sally began. You're right. Something is missing. But what? Said Jack, studying his reflection. Then he heard a cry. Jack, Jack, this time we bagged him. Lock, Shock and Barrel had returned from Christmastown. They released Santa Claus from their sack. Let me out, demanded Santa Claus. Why, you have hands. You don't have claws at all, exclaimed Jack, shaking Santa Claus's hand. Santa was very confused. You don't need to have another worry about Christmas this year. Consider this a vacation, Sandy, a reward. It's your turn to take it easy, Jack explained. But there must be some mistake, said Santa. Lock, Shock and Barrel started to pack Santa up again. Of course, that's what I'm missing, Jack said, as he whisked Santa's hat from his head. Then he sent him on his way. This is worse than I thought, much worse, said Sally, watching as Lock, Shock and Barrel carried Santa Claus away. Then she got an idea. How confused Santa looks. At their treehouse, Lock, Shock and Barrel tried to get Santa Claus into the chute leading to Oogie Boogie's. I think he might be too big, Shock said. No, he's not. If he can go down a chimney, he can fit down here, Lock said, thumping him with a plunger. With a mighty shove, the trick-or-treaters squashed Santa Claus into the pipe. In Oogie's lair, the monster teased Santa Claus as he lay on his roulette wheel. With no way to escape, Sandy begged Oogie to think of the children who were relying on him to deliver their gifts for Christmas morning, but Oogie refused to let him go. Above in the town square, people couldn't wait for Christmas to begin. Everyone, that is, except Sally. While nobody was looking, Sally crept towards the fountain and emptied a bottle labelled fog juice into the water. releasing a cloud of mist. Sally slipped back into the crowd as Jack emerged from his coffin sleigh. "Think of us as you soar triumphantly through the sky," began the mayor, wishing Jack farewell. But the mayor could not finish his speech. A fog had descended on the town, a fog so thick he could not even read the page in his hand. "Oh no, we can't take off in this," said Jack in despair. The crowd groaned. Zero rushed to Jack's side. Jack tried to shoo him away, but then he noticed a light shining through the fog. "My, what a brilliant nose you have," Jack said, looking at Zero's glowing snout. "The better to light my way." Jack sent Zero to the head of his skeleton reindeer and, before Sally could stop him, soared into the sky. "Oh, how I hope my premonition is wrong," sighed Sally as she watched Jack leave. Sally felt sure something very bad was going to happen to Jack, and that she and Jack would never find a way to be together. High above the rooftops in the normal world, Jack flew into the night. He brought his sleigh down with a loud thump to deliver his first present. "Santa?" cried a boy, woken from his sleep. The boy ran to see Santa, only to find Jack. "And what did Santa bring you, honey?" the boy's mother asked after Jack left. His parents shrieked in terror as the boy reached into the box and pulled out a shrunken head. Jack flew from house to house, leaving ghastly gifts and screams in his wake. Calls flooded the police station and news of the Santa imposter spread. The authorities advised people to lock their doors to keep Jack out. From the surface of an enchanted cauldron, the citizens of Halloween Town watched as Jack skipped from chimney to chimney, leaving fear instead of laughter in his wake. Then they heard an announcement from a news reporter. "Reports are pouring in from all over the globe that an imposter is shamelessly impersonating Santa Claus, mocking and mangling this joyous holiday." Jack's friends cheered, but one of Jack's friends was not cheering. Sally listened in horror as the news reporter continued. "Police assure us that, at this moment, military units are mobilizing to stop the perpetrator of this heinous crime." "Jack, someone has to help Jack," said Sally. "Where did they take that Sandy Claus?" Jack flew on as military searchlights swept the sky. The searchlights were followed by the bright flashes and loud booms of exploding missiles. "They're celebrating! They're thanking us for doing such a good job," Jack cried, swerving to avoid a missile. "Whoa, careful down there! You almost hit us," Jack called. I think that's what they're trying to do, Jack. Beneath Halloween Town, Sandy Claus hung from a hook in Oogie Boogie's lair, where the monster played a cruel dice game with his fate. Oogie was about to roll the dice when he heard a noise behind him. My, what have we here? Oogie ogled when he saw a shapely leg poking into his lair. As Oogie was distracted, a pair of hands slid down the rope to untie Sandy. It was Sally. "I'll get you out of here," she whispered. Oogie tickled the foot, but the leg came away in his hand. Oogie turned to see Sandy Claus escaping with Sally. Consumed with rage, Oogie took a breath so deep it sucked Sandy and Sally from their ladder. High above the normal world, Jack swerved to avoid the missiles. "They're trying to hit us! Zero!" Jack warned before a direct hit blew his sled to pieces. In Halloween Town, Jack's friends watched as Jack fell from the sky. "Terrible news, folks. The worst tragedy of our times," declared the mayor as he drove throughout the town. "Jack has been blown to smithereens." In the normal world, the police announced their own terrible news, that there was no sign of the real Santa Claus, and Christmas would have to be cancelled. No. Jack awoke, surrounded by the burned remains of his sleigh, wondering how he could have been so wrong. He'd wanted to do something wonderful, but he had tried to be something he wasn't. Jack decided to go back to doing what he did best, being the Pumpkin King. But first, he threw open the doors to a grave and stepped inside, emerging into Halloween Town. Jack was determined to find Santa Claus and save Christmas. News of Jack's demise drifted down to Oogie's lair, where the monster had tied Sandy and Sally above a pit of hot lava. "What's that you were saying about luck, Ragdoll?" Oogie teased, rolling the dice. Oogie hoped for a high number which, according to his rules, would send Sally and Sandy into the flames. But the game was rigged. Oogie slammed his fist on the table until the dice showed the number he wanted. "Looks like I won the jackpot," Oogie laughed. "Bye-bye, Dollface and Sandman." He pulled a lever to send Sandy and Sally into the pit, but he didn't hear screaming. Oogie looked to see what went wrong, but they were gone. "Hello, Oogie," Jack said, sitting in their place. "Jack? But they said you were dead." Oogie edged away. Oogie stomped on a button that sent playing cards wielding swords on Jack. Jack escaped their slashing blades. When Oogie saw that his attempts to thwart Jack weren't working, he hit yet another button, releasing a spinning saw from the roof. "Jack, look out!" Sally cried as the blade swung towards Jack. Jack leapt out of the way and landed face to face with Oogie. But the monster had one more trick up his sleeve. "So long, Jack," Oogie cackled as he leapt onto a pendulum which lifted him away, leaving Jack alone on the wheel. But Oogie's plan was about to unravel, and so was he. What do you think is going to happen? "How dare you treat my friends so shamefully?" Jack boomed, grasping a loose thread hanging from Oogie. As Oogie rose into the air, Jack pulled on the thread. The monster's seams unravelled, releasing the bugs inside. "Now look what you've done," Oogie cried, now a writhing mass of creepy crawlies. He sobbed as his insects crumbled into the fiery pit. With Oogie defeated, Jack returned Sandy's hat. "Forgive me, Mr. Claus. I'm afraid I've made a terrible mess of your holiday." Sandy told Jack that the next time he wanted to take over a holiday, he should listen to Sally. "I hope there's still time," Jack said. "To fix Christmas? Of course there is. I'm Santa Claus," Sandy Claus replied, pinching his nose and flying into the sky. "He'll fix things, Jack. He knows what to do," Sally said as they watched Sandy fly up the chute. "How did you get down here, Sally?" Jack asked, looking at Sally as if he was seeing her for the very first time. "Oh, I was trying to... Well, I wanted to... Sally stuttered, unable to meet his gaze. "To help me," Jack said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Sally, I can't believe I never realized that you..." But he didn't get to finish. "Jack! Jack!" cried the mayor, throwing down a rope. "Grab a hold, my boy." Jack grasped Sally's hand as the mayor and Lock, Shock and Barrel pulled them to safety. In the normal world, Santa sped through the skies, stopping at every house to replace Jack's gruesome gifts with presents made in Christmastown. "Good news, folks! Santa Claus, the one and only, has finally been spotted," a newscaster announced. In Halloween Town, people rejoiced to see the return of their Pumpkin King. And Jack was happy too. "It's great to be home," Jack proclaimed. "Happy Halloween!" Santa cried from his sleigh in the sky as he delivered a special gift to everyone in Halloween Town. "Merry Christmas!" Jack called back as snowflakes filled the air. Christmas had come to Halloween Town for the very first time. Jack was happy that his friends finally understood the joy he had felt in Christmas Town. But Jack didn't join the fun. He still felt there was something missing. But this time, Jack knew exactly what, or rather who it was. Jack searched the crowd for Sally and watched as she slipped away to walk alone. He followed her to the snow-covered graveyard and asked to join her on top of the hill. Together at last, Jack took Sally's ragdoll hands in his as they kissed by the light of the moon. The end. I really hope you enjoyed that. Thank you again for joining me this evening, and I hope you sleep well.